Hello everybody, this is CrossForger, and I'm back with another Redstone tutorial for you guys. As per request from one of my viewers, I am making a video on logic gates and circuits. And you may ask, what are those? And I'll explain that in this video here, just for you. But before that, I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you for all the support and the 1,000 views on my last Redstone video. That is crazy. I wasn't thinking there was 1,000 people willing to watch me, so thank you. And thank you to the 34 subscribers that I have. Thank you. And the wonderful feedback on my videos. It's been really nice to see the reactions that you guys give my videos. Thank you a lot. That really means a lot to me. And God has definitely blessed me with a really great community right now. Another thing you guys may notice is I'm wearing my Christmas outfit. Yep, I still got it on. I will be changing it somewhere halfway between this video or something. Well, you guys try to see if you can find when I change over to my regular skin. I'll just let you guys have that as a little game for yourself. But without further ado, I guess let's begin with the Redstone. This is episode 1 of the basics of Redstone, you guys remember. And this is part 2. The circuits and logic gates. We'll be going through all of this, and if you guys manage to get through this, well, I'm sure you guys can handle this. So yeah, we're gonna begin with this, but before we begin, you guys may be asking, what are logic gates and what are circuits? Okay, well, let's begin with logic gates. A logic gate is a device that acts as a building block for digital circuits. They perform basic logical functions that are fundamental to digital circuits, and that's what they do in this game. Most electronic devices we use today will have some form of a logical gate in them. So that's kind of an interesting fact for you. Now, what is a circuit? A circuit is a complete closed-loop path that electricity flows through, consisting of a power source, like a battery, conducting wires, and a load, like a light bulb. So kind of like a redstone lamp or something like that, where the electricity travels from the source through the load and back to the source, creating a continuous flow of current. Essentially, it's a circular pathway for electricity to travel along, and that's kind of the definition I found. So that's what that is in the real world, and Minecraft has, for some of its circuits and logic gates, they are pretty much like real world circuits and logic gates. Minecraft actually runs on a system called the Boolean Logic system. So what is this? Well, the Boolean Logic is a system of logic where values can only be either true or false. I think that kind of means in Minecraft either it's on or off, or maybe it's just where this has to be true for this to be true or something like that. It might be the first one. Using operators like and, or, and not, and combining these statements to produce a final result that is also either true or false. It's a form of algebra based on binary values named after mathematician George Boole, who developed the concept. So just a little bit of background and some facts about that in case you wanted to know. Okay, so we're going to begin with logic gates, and these are all the logic gates that I can find. I think these are all the logic gates there are, and the Boolean system runs on logic gates and circuits as the building blocks, and so that's what we're going to be learning. So we're going to be learning about these logic gates, and so let's dive right in. The first logic gate we have is the NOT gate. This is a pretty easy one, and I do suggest watching this video for these logic gates to make sense. Otherwise, this may not make sense to you. So yeah, probably check that out. Okay, so this is a basic logic gate that runs where the input you put in is the opposite for the output. So right now, the input is off, or I guess would it be false in Boolean? So yeah, it's off, and so it's putting an output of on. And if you flip this to make it on, it has an output of off. So it's just kind of like a opposite logic gate, I guess, or in this case, a NOT gate. So when it's not on, this is on. So I guess that might be where you get the not from. So yeah, this is a NOT gate. And as you may recall, when I did the explanation for Boolean logic gate, it was either and or not, and combination of those. So you'll see a lot of these. So here was our NOT gate, and here's our AND gate. So what is an AND gate? Well, this works where when this and this are on, this then turns on. So you can't have one off and one on, otherwise this won't turn on. You need both this and this to turn on, thus the name and. This is a design that everyone uses or whatever, and I've seen this design of it too. This is the same thing, I've just seen this in a Redstone book that I use, and you guys would probably enjoy that book too. It's called Minecraft Guide to Redstone. It's the revised version. This isn't a sponsor or anything, but I do suggest picking up that. It does cost, unless you got it at a library, then you can borrow it for a bit. But it's really an interesting book, and I suggest taking a look at it, and it explains a lot of these logic gates. So yeah, that's the AND gate. And both of these work the same way. You need to have both this and this to turn it on. And this is how it's built. Pretty simple. Next, we have the NAND gate. It's a NOT gate plus an AND gate. When this and this are on, the output is off. So yes, it's just a mixture of these two here. As you can see right here, when this and this are on, that turns off. Next, we have an OR gate, which is another one of our definitions. It's either an AND gate, an OR gate, or a NOT gate, and then a combination of those, as this was seen here, a combination. So this is our OR gate. What is an OR gate? Well, this is actually pretty simple. This requires this, or this, or this to be on, to be powered. You only need one of these on. So you either need this, or this, or this. Thus the name OR gate. What about a NOR gate? Well, that's a NOT gate and an OR gate put together. And as we just learned what an OR gate is, you already know what that does. And we know what a NOT gate does. It just reverses the input. So that's what this NOR gate is doing. When this, or this, or this is on, the output is off. Next we have an XOR gate. What is an XOR gate? Bit of a more trickier one. These last two are pretty tricky ones to look at, but they're somewhat simple. So how this works is you need this to be powered for it to turn on. It can only turn on when one is powered and one is off. So it's essentially when this one or this one is on, will the output be on. When both of them are on, the output is off. When one of them is off, the output is on. And it's a pretty simple design. Well, I mean, it's more complex than the rest of these, but it's pretty simple in this form. Next we have an Xnor Gate. It's an XOR gate plus a NOR gate. And yeah, you've already seen what NOR gates and XOR gates are. So this one might be a pretty simple one to guess if you've kind of figured it all out. When this or this is on, the output is off. When both of them are on, the output is on. When both of these are off, the output is on. When one is on, the output, when one is on and one is off, the output is off. And so yeah, that's pretty simple. It's making use of the NOT gate here. And you guys should be pretty proud of yourselves because you just made it through all of the logic gates. That's all the logic gates, guys. You've done it. So now you know how to do all logic gates. Well, bye. Actually, no, I'm just kidding. You still all have this stuff to learn. So please stick around. Okay, next we're gonna go on to circuits, which is all of this stuff. But before we go on to circuits, as I've described, what is a circuit? Well, I gave you the definition, but what I think of circuits are kind of like simple machines. Like, you know, the pulley and the lever and the wedge and the inclined plane. They perform simple tasks. You'll find that there's actually a circuit that does what a lever does. It's just bulkier. What it does is it turns a button into a lever. So you can use a button in the place of a lever. It just does a simple job, but in a more complex way. So yeah, first we're going to go on to a circuit breaker, or monostable circuit as it's also known, which I've heard it said this way more often, and I'll probably say this more often than circuit breaker. But what is a circuit breaker? Well, you may recognize this if you watched this video. What it simply does is it cuts a circuit short, or it breaks a circuit, or a monostable circuit. It makes a mono is one, so it, I guess, makes a circuit one small little circuit. So as you can see here, when I press this button, that lamp stays on for a shorter amount of time because it's powered for a shorter amount of time, because the pulse is much shorter. It's been broken up. But this lamp stays on for much longer because this is being powered for the full length of time that this button powers it. And that is essentially a circuit breaker or monostable circuit. It's a pretty simple design. It's just this piston here. Now you can replace this if you don't have a sticky piston and you just have a regular piston. Well, then you can do this right here, and this can be gravel or concrete powder or red sand, and this will work the exact same. And you don't have to have a sticky piston. So that's a pretty nice thing to have. Next up is our observer pulse generator. These generate a short pulse as well. And you can see right here, this, kind of like the monostable circuit, creates a very short pulse, allowing the lamp to be lit for only a short amount of time, as you can see right there. And it's pretty simple. It's just an observer facing into this piston, which is a sticky piston, and it's going over here. The observer is detecting the change in its cell, or in the piston, which is being moved forwards here, and this powers, which powers this redstone dust, which powers this, and then the piston retracts and it cuts the pulse short. And so it's pretty simple. Next up on our list, we have a dust cut pulse generator. What this does is also cuts a pulse short. I think I noticed with a lot of these, they're all ways of cutting pulses shorter. So yeah, you'll see right here, when this is done here, it cuts the pulse short. Now, what is this doing? Well, as it says here, dust cut pulse generator. It cuts the redstone dust, and you'll see right here, if you look right there, it breaks the connection between this piece of dust and this piece of dust when this pushes forwards. And it's just powering along here, and then when this powers, because this being powered as well, because it's powering into this block, powering that, and powering along here, this is powered along here, this makes it through just as this is pushing forwards, and so it cuts the pulse off, making it much shorter. And that is a dust cut pulse generator. Next up, we have a Nor Gate pulse generator. This is a Nor Gate and a pulse generator. Now, it may not look like a Nor Gate because it's not built the same. There's actually a couple different ways of making some of the logic gates we made. I just showed you the simplest ones. Right here, when I press this button, it again creates a very short pulse compared to a regular powering of a redstone lamp. So this is powering into this block, which is depowering this torch, which is allowing this to depower, which is allowing this to turn on. But this is delayed for a second, just as this powers on. This will then fire into this block, or send a signal through this block. Whoops, mistakes were made. This will then power into this block, turning off the torch, so it only powers for a very short time, as shown here. And that is a Nor Gate pulse generator. It just creates a very short pulse. Now we're going to be showing a locked repeater pulse generator. This is a more interesting one than some of these. I mean, these were very interesting and they're used a lot. This is just works in a more interesting way. So when you flick this, you may think that this will then power, but it doesn't. It just sits unpowered. Well, it will only power, and only for a short amount of time, when this is turned off again. And you see right there. What is essentially happening is when I power this, it is delaying for a second here, or about 2 pulses it looks like. Maybe it looks like 3 or 2 pulses. Powering here, and then into here. But why this is happening, and why it's being delayed right here, it powers here, into here, and into the side of this repeater. And as I taught you in that video over there, when a repeater has a signal running into the side of it, it will lock itself, which gives it this bedrock look to it. And so it's locked. And so the signal can't get through. Only when I unpower it does the signal unlock and power through, but only for a short amount of time, powering it. So again, this is the locked repeater pulse generator, and that's how that works. Next up on our list, we have a Xor Gate off pulse generator. How this works is kind of the opposite of what I've just shown you for this whole thing. It depowers for a short amount of time. So right now this is all powered, but what is happening is it's depowering for a short amount of time. And this just fires off and depowers and repowers again in a very short span. Now, I wondered what happened if I took this away, so I'm just going to show you real quick. When I take it away, it simply depowers for the same length of time as a regular pulse. And this right here, I've just accidentally created a NOT gate. Yep, this is just a NOT gate. And this is pretty much what a NOT gate is, but this powers off, this powers on, and something weird happens here where it depowers for only a short amount of time. Don't ask me, I don't know how it works. I know I do a little bit of redstone, but I'm not that good in redstone. Know what's going on right there. Next we have the vertical transmission circuit. I didn't realize this was a circuit, but apparently this is a circuit. Like I said, they're kind of like simple machines. They just perform a simple task. This just performs a simple task by going up. So as you can see right here, when I flick this lever, the redstone travels up this stair step and powers on this lamp. And you can attach any power source anywhere throughout this stair step as long as this redstone is running into the side of these lamps. And as you can see, I depower it and it depowers. But there's something about these that you may find a bit frustrating, especially if you've got a tight space and you're like, oh, this would really work. Instead of having to build a staircase and having redstone travel all the way up, this is really nice. And to build one of these, you simply just place it on the top half of every other block on this side and the top half of every other block on this side, or a checkerboard pattern, as seen right here. So you're just kind of going in a checkerboard pattern. And so pretty simple to make. But like I said, there was a quirk with it that isn't probably super fun to hear. But the quirk is it can't power down. It can't go down its stair step. It can only go up. So yeah, that's kind of annoying, but hey, it's the price to pay for compact. Next we have the glass, which is just a variation of this, just in glass form. So if you don't have slabs, which you probably would have slabs, you can use glass, which works the exact same way. It just travels through these and up into the lights. Yep, there you go. And as I showed before, as long as you have something redstone running into the side, you can power it at any level of these stair steps. But you may think, oh, so this is just the variation of the slabs? So wait, does that mean that I can power this down? It'll go down the steps, unlike this? Well, I wish it did, but nope. This only powers up and cannot power down. So that's kind of sad, but yeah, it's just have to live with it. So yeah, but there's other ways of doing a vertical transmission circuit using pistons. So how does this work? Well, this piston is simply pushing 12 blocks, 11 of them slime blocks, and one of them a redstone block, up into a redstone lamp, sending a signal. So I'm sending a signal from here all the way up to here, pretty much instantly. And so that's really nice. And yeah, if you want one where it's constant, so this is a take on a circuit, which I will show you in a bit, but this is simply just It allows for constant powering, and this is using a monostable circuit and a T flip-flop. And I'll teach you about the T flip-flop later. And you can also do this with observers. You can have an observer detect when the block touches. It's really hard to catch it when it powers the first time. But yeah, it powers twice though. That's the one downfall to it. If you don't want a double pulse, you're going to have to probably go with something like this. Next we have, well, an observer version of it. This is just a bunch of observers facing down. It's just facing into this button. You could really have a trail of redstone and then power it from here, and then it detects that. Or a piston that pushes a block under here so the observer detects that. But yeah, I've just used this. Now, this is really nice in the way that it can do things like this. This is crazy, but it allows you to go around a bunch of redstone. So in case you had this in a small confined area, this is really, really nice for getting around there. But its downfall is it's really slow. Yeah, that is incredibly slow. So if you needed to go places at a fast speed, this is probably not the one to go for. But if you don't mind the slight weight, then that's fine. And if you also don't mind the double pulse, then that's also okay. There might be ways to just merge the double pulses into one pulse by doing a pulse lengthener, which I'll show you the pulse lengthener later. But yeah, you can also make it do weird shapes like this, but yet again, it's very slow. But yeah, those are just some ways that you can do it, and they're really, really interesting. Just all you have to do is make sure that an observer is pointing into the next observer in line. So this one is simply just pointing like this, and it's just detecting that, which is detecting that. And because I broke it, it detected it, and so it sent a signal up. And so yeah, that is our vertical transmission circuit. Next up, we have our pulse divider. The one I've seen built. This is how I've seen it built, at least in a Redstone book that I've owned, which is the Minecraft Guide to Redstone. So this is using a locked repeater pulse generator right here. So when this is powered, it'll lock this and send out a very short signal, which will then unlock these hoppers, which I told you about how to lock hoppers actually right there. And so all these hoppers are locked currently, and these hoppers have nothing in them, but this guy right here, which is a dropper, it has one piece of white wool, and it doesn't matter whether this is white wool or some other random blocker item. And right now this is being detected that there's an item in here by this comparator, which is sending out a signal, which is powering this light. But every time a signal runs through here and depowers this redstone, this dropper will fire, sending this white wool into this hopper, and then this will relock, and so it'll keep the white wool stuck in here until the next pulse is fired, and then it will unlock, allowing the white wool to travel to the next hopper, which will then lock again, because then this is going to be reactivated and it locks this, and it will unlock after the next pulse and get stuck here, unlock after the next pulse, get stuck here, and unlock after the next pulse and get stuck here. And then finally, after it gets the last pulse, it will unlock and travel back into the dropper, ready to be fired again. And throughout this whole process, as it's traveling around, this lamp will be turned off because, well, there's nothing in here to be detected anymore, so the comparator will just shut off and turn off the signal, and meaning the lamp will no longer be powered. As you can see right here, the white wool is now in here. And this means it takes a bunch of pulses till it finally travels back through. But apparently, what's happening is it's getting here, and then it's powering again and firing back into here. So it never actually ends up back in the hopper again. Or sorry, the dropper again. So it only powers for a moment, firing off a signal just once. So it's a pulse divider, so that means the pulse won't always be on. It only creates a short pulse, which then fires back into here. It'll end up in this dropper eventually, but it'll instantly fire it back out again and put it into here, meaning the pulse only fires for a short time. And this is simply dividing the pulse. It's making the pulse longer. And you see it turns on for a second there, and then it gets shot back out and into this guy here, allowing it to go back around again. And this is a simple one where it's just 5 hoppers here and then a dropper here. But you can have as many hoppers as you want, well, at least within reason, or whatever Minecraft allows. And so that means it would take tons of pulses to run through here before it eventually would trigger and power the lamp or whatever you want. This could be good for traps. I've seen it in the Redstone book I have, where you could have a trap chest, and every time you opened it, it'd send a pulse. So like this, it would send a pulse like this, but the trap wouldn't activate. Only until that pulse would happen about 6 times would the trap then activate. So it puts them off their guard if you want to use them in traps. So that it's a really nice trap one to use. But this is a pulse divider, the one that I made. And this is simply just going in a loop track. Here, let's see if I can show you guys real quick. So it starts in this hopper, then it travels to here, goes this way, travels to here, and then eventually back into this one. But yeah, I found that you don't really need the whole dispenser thing, and this also makes it far quieter. But this one actually works where it's always powered. So yeah, it's actually going to stay always powered. This one will dispense it out, so it only fires a short amount of time. So I guess this shouldn't really be called a pulse divider, but maybe a pulse. Well, it wouldn't be a pulse generator. It'd just be just a divider. It'd probably be just called a divider. That'd probably be more accurate. So I don't know. I don't think I'm the first one to create this, but yeah, it just fires along, and every time you flick this, it then powers off, and it just takes the cycle around again. It's just gonna travel all the way along here very slowly, back into here, and then start the signal again. So if you wanted a constant signal, that took a couple of goes before it actually fired. And I guess this design here is for you. And if you want one that simply just fires off once for a short amount of time, then this design is for you right here. But next up on our list, we have the T flip-flop, which I showed very shortly there. But what is a T flip-flop, and why is it called a T flip-flop? It's kind of a funny name, and I like it, but yeah. What is a T flip-flop? Well, the T stands for toggleable. It's a toggleable flip-flop. But in less fancy words, it's one of these. It's just this. So yeah, if you don't want one of these, just put down a lever, you'll be fine. But what this does is turns a button into a lever, which I mentioned back there. So yes, these are performing a simple task in a much bulkier form. So what this does is it uses the monostable circuit and this, whatever you call this circuit here, to make a T flip-flop. It's a pretty simple design. This fires in, creates a very short pulse, which fires into here, which makes this sticky piston spit out its block, which then goes to here, which then this redstone torch powers into this block, and into this block, which then powers this redstone dust. And you'll see that done right here. And this is a constant power. So it is essentially a lever, just longer. And when you press this again, it depowers. It grabs this block back and no longer powers this lamp. And this doesn't have to be a lamp. This could be a piston, and that's the same for all of these. They don't have to be lamps. They can be pistons if you want, or some other redstone contraption attached to this. There's also another design for T flip-flop. I think there's a couple designs you could do for a lot of these things that I'm going to show you. This is just one that I've seen. It has a white wool here inside of a dropper. And this dropper is facing into this dropper, which is facing into this item hopper, which the item hopper is then running down into this dropper, which is facing into this dropper. It's going here, and then to here, and then here, and then to there. So you'll see that here. So it sends out a constant signal. It's now in here. This comparator is seeing the item in here, so it's sending out a signal and powering this lamp. But when I press this again, this fires into here, which is putting it into this dropper, and the dropper is just keeping it in there. And this no longer sees anything in here, and so it depowers and depowers the lamp. And so you can just do this as much as you want to the ends of the earth. I don't know, but whatever you want to do. But yeah, next we have a pulse extender, which I also talked about over there. This extends a pulse. Yep, that's on the tin. That's what it does. So yes, as you can see right here, instead of shortening a pulse, which most of these have been doing, it's been shortening pulses. This one, on the other hand, lengthens the pulse. So when I press here, this then depowers, but this stays powered for much longer. And it's a pretty simple design. It's a comparator facing this way and a comparator facing this way. So as you can see right here, or I guess more of a comparator facing this way and a comparator facing that way. It's pretty simple, with redstone dust going here and redstone dust going here, and then redstone running out of that. Pretty simple. And this can be added upon. You can add more comparators. 2 comparators going this way and 2 comparators going this way to lengthen the pulse to an even longer amount of time. Yeah, that's crazy long. And this can be further added upon to an enormous amount. And this is just a small version of what you could do. You could make those go on all the way into the distance. And this would power the redstone for a very, very long time. Yeah, we're going to be here for a little bit. Oh, there we go. So, yeah, that's something you can do. There's also a older version of this where you can use repeaters instead of comparators with a redstone trail running along beside this and into here. And as you can see right here, this does somewhat the same thing. It powers for a much longer time than a regular signal. But yeah, that's kind of the basics for pulse extenders. Now what about an RS Nor Latch? That is a name. And what does it stand for? Well, RS stands for redstone signal or redstone state. So this is the redstone state or signal that it runs on. And it's a Nor Gate or Nor Latch. I don't know why it's called a latch, but maybe you guys understand that more than I do. I probably should have looked it up. I don't know. But yeah, what this does is it has an item in here, in this top dropper, and nothing in this bottom dropper. And both of these droppers are facing into each other. So this one's facing down and this one's facing up. And what's happening is this comparator is detecting that there's an item in this dropper and sending out a signal and powering this redstone lamp. Now, if I click this, it'll power into this block and power this dropper, which will then make it shoot out its block into this bottom dropper. And I'm sure you understand what happens when I do that. Yep, the comparator has nothing to compare anymore, and the comparator has nothing to detect anymore, and so it doesn't send out a signal anymore. And now the item's in here. Now, what happens is if I click this, well, no matter how many times I click it, it's not going to power again. But if I click this one, it will then repower. But no matter how many times I click this one, it won't power. So the only way for it to power is if I click this and this, or I guess the only way, depending on how you look at it, the only way to power it off or power it on is to click the opposite. So when this is clicked, I then have to click this to repower it. And when this is clicked, nothing happens. But when I click this, it then depowers, and so on and so forth. And here's just a more visual version of it. When I click this, it depowers that and allows this to be powered. But no matter how many times I click this button, I can never turn it back on again. So I have to click this button to then turn this back on. But no matter how many times I click this button, it never repowers. I have to then click this button. So it's kind of a back and forth. And yeah, you kind of get the idea. So that is a RS Nor Latch. You guys may find a use for that. I don't know. Next up on our list is something that I find really cool. I don't have my mind fully around some of the different versions of it, but this one I understand pretty well. It is called the Double Piston Extender. This one's really fun to mess with, and I highly suggest trying it out. What this essentially does is, well, it extends. It extends double the length of a regular piston. So it combines two pistons together to fire an extra block. And it's got a really simple recipe. This is something that you should learn when building one of these. And it is the simple timing for this. As you can see right here, this one is set back 1 tick here, and this is set back 4 ticks, and this has no repeater at all. And this is the recipe for it. 2, so 2 ticks, so it's set back to 2 ticks. 4, this is set back to 4 ticks. And 0, this has no delay. It is from here to here, it gets there in 0 ticks. So 2, 4, 0. That's all you have to remember is 2, 4, 0. And then simply just to place the repeaters facing into these things. And the redstone dust leading into this. And that's all you have to remember. It's really simple. This is how I've always remembered it, is 2, 4, 0. And so if you can remember that combination, then you can build one of these yourself. Now here is another version of it, which in case you have, like, for some reason you want to extend it out and you don't want any of the redstone to be seen, and you just want it to be flush with the wall, well, this is a really great way of doing it. And how this works is, well, it's simply this design here. And the formula is still being used here. So we've got a delay of 2 ticks. So when it powers through here, it's powering into this 0 ticks. When it's traveling into here, and then travels to here, and then to here, it's traveling 2 ticks. And over here, it then travels there, into here, and into here, which by the time so this delays 2 ticks, plus 2 ticks, which is 4 ticks, so this takes 4 ticks to get along, powers to here, and then powers this. So the formula is still being used here. It is still 2, 4, 0. It is still the recipe for a double piston extender, 2, 4, 0. And we have here a flush to the floor double piston extender. This one I find really cool, and it's used a lot in redstone doors. And the recipe is again being used right here. The recipe's in here somewhere, but it's a little more complicated for me to explain. Just take a good look at it right here. And this is how it works. I hope that makes sense to you. Here's the timings for it. We got a 3, 1, 1, and 4 right there. So yeah, you guys can probably find the recipe in there. I'm not really going to take the time to find the recipe, but it's in there somewhere. But yeah, that is our double piston extenders. And we're getting there, guys. That's the last one right there. Okay, you've come so far. Next, we're on to redstone clock circuits. These are really fun and highly used in redstone machines. So what is a clock? Well, a clock is like, well, a regular clock. It runs on a timer and sends out a signal every single time it hits that time. So this is a very fast one. Well, not super fast, but it's fast. So yes, it's just traveling along, and it's simply just repeaters traveling in a circular motion. All of them set back to 4 ticks. So it's just traveling along here. And to power one of these, we're just going to quickly stop it real quick. And to power one of these, all you need is a lever and to move really quickly. So right click twice. And then you can break the lever after you're done. And it will start the clock. And then trying to power it and then depower it, well, that just won't work. You'll just have to break this and then stop the clock. And then restart it again. And next we have a bigger version of this. It's just 2 repeaters, both of them set back to 4 ticks. And it's just traveling along in a circular motion, sending out a signal. So this is delayed for longer, and you can grow on this. So you could add 3 repeaters, 4 repeaters, 5 repeaters, 6 repeaters, and you kind of get the idea. and it makes it longer and longer. This is a much faster clock, and this one is, I'm just showing this here. You can send a signal out this way or this way, and it doesn't matter whether you put it out this way or this way. Now, with this, you do have to have it out one block and then place here. If you try to place it directly here, nothing will happen. I mean, unless you put a target block here and then a redstone lamp, then that works. Yeah, this is just a simple design here. 2 repeaters, one going this way into a block, and this redstone torch on this side here. Now this design can be altered slightly, where you can have it like so instead. And you can have the torch facing this way instead of the torch facing this way, and the clock works the exact same. So that's really nice. Next we have an observer clock. And this is just a bunch of observers detecting themselves, and it's just constantly in a constant circle of detection. And you can send redstone signals out any of these corners here. Not this corner, but anywhere where these redstone dots are. You can send signals, as shown here. Yep, so these are pretty simple. Next we have a hopper clock. These ones are pretty fast too. What this simply has is a single item traveling back and forth really fast between these 2 hoppers that are facing into each other. And these comparators are detecting the block every single time it appears in this and sending out a signal. And you can send a signal out either side of these, and I think even a signal out any of these sides. So it allows for a lot of directional signals if you want. Next we have the Etho Hopper Clock. This was invented by YouTuber Etho, and it is a really ingenious design. It was made a while back, but is still in working order and is very, very useful. It allows for long durations. This one allows for a constant back and forth signal. It's always sending a signal out. So it moves from there, travels to here, and then repowers and sends another signal into this one. These are both sticky pistons. So I guess there we go. There we go. Now it's fixed. There we go. That's running much nicer there. Sorry about the flashing lights from the other lamps. But yeah, this is eventually the signal will then travel back over to here and power this lamp. So yeah, it allows for a long duration of being powered off and a long duration being powered on, and it's equal amount of duration depending on how many blocks you put in. So yes, the more blocks you put in, the longer the duration off and the longer duration on. The less blocks you put in, the shorter duration. So if we put in just one block, it'd start going back and forth really fast and powering and depowering. Next on our list, we have, well, just another clock. And so we've got this clock right here. It's 2 repeaters set side by side, one facing this way and one facing that way. It doesn't matter whether the one facing this way is on this side and the one facing this way is on that side. What I mean by that is it doesn't matter whether it's like this and this, that it still works the exact same. And yeah, I don't know how I powered this one. I must have powered it really, really fast. And so yeah, you got to be pretty fast when powering one of these. It's kind of the same as the one I showed you in the first place. That's pretty simple, and then you can pretty much just get rid of the lever there. You don't need it anymore, and it'll just continue going around and around in a circle for kind of eternity. And you can extend on this, as I've shown here. This is just a bigger version of this. And so yeah, that'll just keep going. And yeah, that's all the redstone clock circuits. Well, the ones that I know. I don't know, and maybe there's some that I left out. You guys may find them. But yeah, these are some of the ones that I've seen done, and there's a lot of flashing lights out there. Next on our list is the redstone sorting circuit. This circuit that is used a lot, and it looks sort of complicated when you see it on the inside, but it really, really is not complicated at all. And I'll show you how to make it right here. Okay, so how this is working is this comparator is seeing what's inside of this hopper, so how full it is, and it's sending out a signal for that. It's about 2 redstone dust. That's not a very strong signal, so it can't reach down here. This repeater, when the signal, or when there's more items in here, gets stronger, when the signal gets stronger, it'll power this repeater, which will send a signal through this block, depowering the torch, which will unlock this hopper here, which is stopping these items from flowing out. Now, you may be wondering why they're all facing this direction. Well, that's because if they were all facing, let's say, if they were all facing this way, what would actually end up happening, and if I quickly duplicate this, what would actually end up happening is all the items would start flowing out and into this place, which means we'd start losing our strength of our circuit, and all of our stuff, all of our work here would just flow out and wouldn't work. Which is why most people place their hoppers facing this way, or you could even face it that way. They just don't face it facing either way within this sorting circuit. And as you can see here, all the items have now been taken out and moved into here, and that completely ruins our whole circuit. And there we go, I fixed it again for us. So what's happening here? Well, I already showed how it works, but what does all this mean? And why aren't any of the other hoppers filled? Well, we're not getting any redstone signal from the other hoppers, so none of them are filled. But this right here, the one that the comparator is running out of, does have to be filled. And does it have to be filled like this? Well, no, but this is a good way of filling it. What you have to do is put placeholder blocks. So I've just named this white wool with some random name. It has to be a name that you'll never type out again and just put through your sorting system. Because otherwise, if you put a placeholder item in here, it actually ruins the circuit. So don't put any placeholding items through your own sorting system. It just doesn't work. So what you're going to do is take a hopper facing one of this, either this direction or this direction, whichever will work. I think you can also place it facing down, but just to be safe, you always face it this way or this way. And then you take placeholder items. I'll just take that right there. And then the item you want to have sorted. So let's say I have a bunch of my logs that I want to sort. In fact, I'm just going to use this sorting system to show you. So let's just take these out real quick. So this is a fresh sorting system. And we haven't sorted a single thing yet. There's nothing that's been sorted. And we're going to fill up this sorting system. Okay, so we want to sort logs. So first thing you do, which always stays the same, is 3 along here. 3 placeholder blocks. Then you're going to place a certain amount of items you want in here. I'd probably suggest something, maybe we'll go with 30 and see what that does. So 30 items in here. And then we'll stick just a stack of logs. Now this will automatically start draining into our chests. And this is going to start filling. And the sorting system is working. And then eventually, this will stop draining and lock itself. As you can see here, this repeater is going, turning off the torch, allowing items to start flowing through these hoppers. And now it's stopped. Okay, we have 12 items left in the sorting circuit, and these items just need to stay in here. If these were diamonds, you just have to leave these alone. You'll be down to like 12 diamonds, but that's fine. And also, I suggest something above 10 items or whatever. So like above 10 oak logs. So 12 would probably do. Just to stay safe, in case you accidentally have some weird hiccup in your sorting system, this will be some backup items. So you can't just simply put in enough where this is 1 oak log. That could be dangerous for the sorting system, and if something wrong happens, this will all of a sudden unblock, and then any items can start going through your filter. And that's not what you want. So yeah, that's just a simple sorting system, and it's a simple circuit, very, very simple. This is how you make it. It's really, really easy, and it's very, very helpful. This usually, I mean, in small sorting systems, you could use a hopper like this. In big servers or whatever, this could cause lag, a lot of hoppers like this, so people use water streams or stuff of that sort. So you may change out this hopper right here with, I don't know, something more, less lag inducing. But yeah, that is the redstone sorting circuit. Next up, we have the Smart Piston. What is the Smart Piston? And it sounds really cool. Well, it is really cool. And what it does is essentially, it's smart enough to realize there's a block sitting on its face. It'll push it away. If there's a block on its face, it'll push it away. So, you can see right there. Now, it's not really smarts, it's just redstone. What's happening here is, when there's a block on here, this redstone torch sends a signal through the block, powering this redstone. You'll see for a second there. See, it powers. And this powers into this block and powers this guy right here. And that's how that system works. And this can go up for a pretty large amount of blocks, and then eventually it hits its limit, which is the piston push limit, which is about 12 blocks. And then it'll stop pushing. This is really handy in AFK machines. Concrete gathering machines use the smart pistons. There's also a secondary design, which is the 0-tick smart piston, which just fires off a lot faster. Well, at least I think they fire off a lot faster. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, it does fire off a little faster. So if you want something that gets things done a lot faster, then yes, this 0-tick smart piston would probably be the way to go. And it's a pretty simple design right there. And so is this. So this is really easy to design and not much of a problem at all. Next on our list, we have the Redstone Automatic Dispenser. What is this? Well, it's in the name. It automatically dispenses. Well, right now there's nothing in this dropper. And this can be a dispenser or a dropper. I guess I call it a dispenser, but yeah, it can be a dropper or dispenser. And what this is essentially doing is this is looking for whether or not there's something in here. And if there is, it'll send out a signal, and this will power this redstone dust, which will power along into this redstone dust. So this will send out a signal, and it will power this block, which will power this redstone dust, and power this redstone dust, which will power along here, and power this repeater, which is sending a signal back through here. And what's happening here is this sending a signal and this sending a signal will run back in to this dropper, which will power the dropper and make it shoot out any items inside of it. Now, I don't know exactly how there's connecting here. I mean, somehow it's doing it. We just don't ask questions, so we just use the redstone machines. Okay, so let's just pick a random item. We'll just go with grass. Let's say you had an over amount of grass, and this is great for sorting systems as well. I've seen them used a lot in there. Or something where you want it, where the instant something comes into it. So let's just get a hopper here. And let's say you have a bunch of items just filtering down in here. It'll start shooting those out. So let's just, and you'll see right there, it's detecting the item in there and instantly shooting it out. So yeah, this is just gonna shoot all these items out, and I put far too much in there. Yeah, we'll just go right there. There we go. And when this is done, this will no longer detect any items and will stop firing when it hits the last amount of blocks. So we got 12 left. And there we go. Stop firing. There's no more blocks in our system. And you can pick them back up. So yes, very simple design here. And you can put them directly into the dispenser. And it'll just shoot them out again. Yeah, we don't need to see the whole thing, the whole cycle again. That is the Redstone Automatic Dispenser. Next on our list, we have the Redstone Minecart Loading Circuit. That's a mouthful, but, well, I mean, I guess this technically does take a mouthful in minecart terms. So what's happening is items in here are entering this hopper minecart, while the hopper minecart is going to sit right here because it's being blocked by this glass block. And what's happening is when it sits right here, I'll just show you right here, there's nothing in here, and when I click this, it'll come in here, and it'll start taking a bunch of blocks. Now, it just moved off there, but you'll see that there's still items inside of there. And why is that? Why didn't it just take all of the items? Well, that's because this hopper right here is setting a limit, or pretty much a limit. It ends right around here, so you see we had one extra one, you may get two extra, but it's setting a limit. This hopper minecart is only allowed to take a little, like around about 2 stacks. So it might take 1 or 2 extra, but it's only allowed to take 2 stacks. And you could have, I don't know, allow it to have a little over 3 stacks, or just about 3 stacks. And what's happening here is how that's working is this comparator is taking out the redstone signal from that and putting it into this comparator, which is detecting the minecart here, which is empty, and it'll send out a signal to this once it's full, once the hopper minecart matches the signal that's coming in from the side, it will then send out a signal into this block, which will depower this torch, which will depower the piston, which will retract this glass block, allowing the minecart to slide right through. And so yeah, if we just restart it there, you'll see that we take these items here, and now that it's set to 3, when we click this button, the minecart will go in and start taking its 3 stacks. And there we go. It now took a little bit over it. I think as this goes up, it becomes less and less accurate, but I don't know for sure. I mean, here, let's see what happens when I just say, we'll just say 2 stacks or 1 stack there. Let's see what happens here. Let's see how much it took. Yep, it got around about 5 or whatever extra. So it's not 100% accurate, but it still does the job pretty well. And so these can be pretty useful in your system if you're trying to just take a close to a certain amount. You don't want it to take too much, but you don't want to take all of it. I don't know, this may be useful to you. There's also a secondary design which focuses on taking just all of it. So this is a full 15 signal running into the side of this comparator. And when the hopper minecart reaches that full amount, this will then turn on, depowering this torch, which will depower the piston, which will retract the block, allowing the minecart to travel through. And you see we have an empty minecart there and a full chest here, well, as full as I put in. And we're just going to power that and let it ride right there. And so now, once the minecart has filled up all of its slots, it will then rush out of this loading station. And there we go. And you see right there, it is a full minecart. And wow, that picked up everything. Yep, so we'll just stick those back in there. So yeah, that's a design you can go for. It's a pretty nice design. And this one you'll probably find better use for than this one, but I don't know. Maybe you'll find a use for that. Now we have kind of the opposite of this one. This is the Redstone minecart offloading circuit. What this is doing is offloading a minecart. So I've got some items right here. We'll just fill up this minecart. We have a hopper right here with nothing in it, an empty chest. And what this is doing is this comparator is detecting whether or not there's items flowing through this hopper. If so, it'll send a signal into this block, which will depower this torch, which will depower this redstone right here because it's powering into this block and depowering this. And it'll also send a signal through and depower this powered rail. And you'll see that happen right here. And this is pretty slow, so we'll just take out that and allow that to offload, just so you guys can see. And you see this has all happened as I said, and the powered rail is also depowered. It's hard to see from here, but yeah, it's depowered. And this is just going to flow through, and once all those items have then been emptied, it'll all be detected, and the minecart will travel off. It's on its merry way. And yeah, that is the Redstone minecart offloading circuit. Next on our list, we have the Redstone flying machine. These are used a lot and are very, very handy. What these do is, well, it flies. It's a machine that flies. And it's a very, very simple design. These are simply here for the observer to detect the change in this block so that it activates. This can be, I don't know, a piston or a block being pushed into here. Just something for it to detect the change in. And this is an unmovable block so that the pistons and stuff don't just infinitely fly away. So yeah, we just have that as a simple thing, and it can go up and down. Yeah, I don't know why it locked there for a second, but for some reason that simply locked, and what you can simply do is, I don't know, place a block there, have it fire off again. Yeah, I don't know why it locked there for a second. But yeah, this is the basic flying machine, and it's really easy to build. I guess I'll just quickly show you then. Just think of it as a checkerboard pattern. So we're going to start with 2 slime. And then we're going to start with, we'll just go with 2 pistons, has to be sticky pistons. And then a observer facing down. And then we're going to go opposite direction, so in the checkerboard pattern. 2 slime. And then we're going to go piston down. And then observer facing up. I made a bit of a mistake there. There we go. And this is what happened if you didn't have a block there for it to stop, an immovable block. Like so. And it would just, what it's doing is this observer is detecting that it's being moved. It's detecting that there's a change in block, so it's sending a signal into this piston, which is grabbing this sticky, this slime right here and pulling it up. And this is detecting the change, so it's sending a signal into that sticky piston, which is pushing this block up. And so it's just a constant cycle of push and pull, and so it's just going to go up until it hits the world limit. And I'm just going to stop it right here. That's a way of stopping it, is simply just by breaking the system itself. And so yeah, that's a simple one to make. And then there's another one over here, which is just the horizontal version. This is the vertical version, and this is the horizontal version. And you simply just click this here, and it will activate. And it'll pull itself until it hits an immovable block. If you press this, it'll then move again. And you can actually add stuff to this, up to the piston push limit. I think this will do right there. And so yeah, you can make rockets. People like to make rockets with these, or giant moving robots or stuff like that. So they're pretty fun. And you can also stick blocks onto these, like so. And so they like to build houses or stuff like that. There are some really cool videos you can find of flying machines. They're really cool. You probably should take a look at that, and I don't know, maybe you find stuff that you'd like to do with that. Maybe some transport machine, or people like to use them for elevators going up and down. Next, we have another version of the flying machine. This one is used a lot in industrial farms. And this one's a pretty simple design. It's just one observer facing that way, one observer facing this way, a piston facing this way, and a piston facing this way, and then a checkerboard pattern for the slime. So one on the front face of this piston and one on the front face of this piston here. And then these observers are simply just detecting the changes in these blocks. And then this is an immovable block so that this thing doesn't just fly off for eternity. And why people use these a lot in industrial farms is because they can stick arms on them. This is what they call them, is arms. And usually what people do is have stuff like this. And so when there's sugarcane or crops like that, it'll start going through and it'll break the crops automatically. And then they can just have hopper minecarts going around and picking up the stuff. And they may have offloaders, like I showed you guys. And so yeah, these are really helpful for industrial farms, and you guys may find a use for that. Next on our list is the TNT Duper, or TNT Duplicator. And yeah, a lot of you guys will probably find fun with this. And not all worlds or servers will let you guys do this. So if you're playing on a public server, you may ask whether or not you can use a TNT Duplicator, as they duplicate the TNT over and over again. So this may be a little cheaty. This is how you build it. So a slime in an L shape here, and then a slime in an L shape here, and then a stone wall here. It doesn't matter what type of wall you want. I guess it could be mud or any of the wall types that we have. Piece of TNT here. Some dead fire coral fan, or it could be any coral that is a wall coral. So you guys can find any of the wall corals or the fan corals. It can be any of the fan corals. And then I believe that's a detector rail. Yeah, detector rail with a minecart on top of it. And then a sticky piston facing into the slime, and then any way to power it. So if you click this, this will activate it. It's now pushed all the slime together, and the whole machine is now in place. And the next time you press it, it will then activate the TNT and dropping it and exploding it, and that just duplicates the TNT. And you can click this as many times as you want, and you can just start blowing holes into the world. And so these are really good for mining through giant areas, and they're pretty fun to just mess with as well. But yeah, don't try to grief people's places with these. That is not a good idea. I didn't make this video for you guys to grief people. And also, this is not my design, this is somebody else, but yeah, the community came up with this. I don't know who exactly, but yeah, it's pretty cool seeing duplicators, but yeah, blow up stuff responsibly. Okay, next on our list, we have the Zero Tick Piston. Now, I showed you a Zero Tick Piston over there with the Smart Piston, but this is it by itself. This is a design I saw by Mumbo Jumbo. I don't know if he designed it specifically. Somebody else probably designed it, but I don't know, he may have. But yeah, if you press this button, you may have thought, oh, well, nothing happened. But if we press it while you're looking up, look at that piston back in the back. It fires at a super speed. This is crazy fast. And these types of pistons were used a lot in zero-tick farms. Zero-tick farms don't really exist anymore, but they were really great ways to manipulate the game to grow things faster, like sugarcane and cactus farms. There were zero-tick versions of those, and those were really good and got a lot of resources fast, but they were soon taken out of the game. And yeah, now, but we're still left with the zero-tick piston. So that's really fun to have, and this can be a sticky piston. It doesn't have to be a regular piston. And this is how you design it. Really simple and easy. And last, but not least, is the Redcoder. This is a, looks complicated, but not really complicated machine. It's a pretty simple design. Redstone line going all along there, redstone line going all along there. A comparator running out of some signal. This can be an item frame, or as I've shown over here, it could also be a lectern. Target blocks running along the top. Target blocks running along here. Redstone torches running along the faces of the target blocks. And along this block right here, which have repeaters running out of the back of them. And then pistons running along here, or they could be running along here. There's a couple different places you could start running them along. So yes, what this is simply doing is taking an output where this is positioned on the item frame. And depending on that, it'll send out a signal. As you can see right there, it'll send out a signal through this block and into the redstone dust behind, and also along this trail right here. And what happens is you'll see this is extended, but when I turn this, the signal gets stronger, depowering this, and powering this right here. Everything else will stay powered right there so that nothing works. And then when you flip this, it'll move along the line and change power. And you flip it like this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And then finally, when it goes back all the way around, it takes the whole cycle back again. This is a really useful circuit. I mean, I haven't found a use for it personally because I haven't built with these a lot. But it is a really cool circuit, and you may find it in selectors or stuff like that. Maybe some machine that allows you to select things. You can also do this with a lectern with 15 pages. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, being the last piston there. And then you can send it all the way back to page 1. And this may look different, but it's actually the same design. I've just placed it on the floor. It's the same exact design as this. It's just moved down into the ground by 1 block. But yeah, that is the Redcoder, and that is our last circuit. Now, I think there are more circuits in the game, but these are just the ones that I believe are important to know and important to learn. The other ones are probably very, very important, but I just don't know them at the moment. And I've looked around, but I haven't seen any more from the ones that I showed you right here. You should be very proud of yourself. You just made it through all of this. You just learned all the logic gates, circuits, and redstone clocks that, well, I know. And now you know them. If you need to, you can look back through this video. I will have timestamps for you guys to go through and skip around if you need to. Watch it a couple times if you have to, just so you can figure out what each of them do. And who knows, maybe you might find a better version of the stuff that I've done. There are multiple versions of certain things that I've shown here. I'll leave a video in the description by Mumbo Jumbo. Those are some of the new tricks that Redstoners nowadays use. But yeah, other than that, you've kind of learned it. And if you're wondering, like, how will these work in the real world? Well, I've already given you some of the examples. I say real world, in Minecraft world. I've already given you some examples, but here is a really good example right here of Minecraft redstone working right now. Now, this may look complicated. It's a redstone door that I actually made by myself. I didn't really look up any videos other than this flush to the wall redstone piston door. And how this works is a 3-button code. It doesn't matter which order you place it in. And what it's doing is using monostable circuits right here, and a T flip-flop, or 3 T flip-flops that is, and 3 monostable circuits to power this logic gate, which I believe is an AND gate, to power this redstone door right here, which is flush to the wall. And it's also using a pulse lengthener right here to power this door right here. And that's just me opening and close it the easy way. Oh, yep, closed right behind me. And then I can't remember if this is correct. No, okay, I got one of the buttons wrong. Is that correct? Still not correct. Technical difficulties. Have to find out my own buttons. Was it this one? There we go. That's how that works. You just go right there. And then, yeah, and then you can simply just close the door behind you so that no one can get into your secret base. And I may show a video on how to actually build this thing. If you guys wanted to see that, you guys can let me know down in the comments section. And I just want to say thank you again to all the views and the great comments I had on my last video. Thank you, and the subscribers. God has really blessed me with an amazing community, and I hope to see more of you guys joining this CrossForger channel. And I just hope you have a wonderful rest of this day, and I hope I made it 10 times better. And yeah, check out some of the resources I've talked about, and don't just use me, use a lot of other YouTubers as well. They do a lot of redstone, and they're a lot better at it than I am. But yeah, I hope you did find it helpful, and I hope to see you in some more of my videos, whether that's tutorials or just me having fun. Check out some of those resources, like I said. May God bless you and keep you, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye!